Tell you what has gone too far as well. Birmingham City Council. What an absolute shambles this local council is. And my heart actually breaks for anyone that lives in that place, because it's just an absolute farce. You know by now the amount of debt they're in. They've had problems with equal pay, lawsuits. They weren't paying people accurately. They've had a massive scandal in relation to an IT project that has set them again into lots and lots of debt. They've been voting today on whether or not to raise council tax there by a massive 21%. It'll end up perhaps over 2 years. I can tell you now, right, they're not wanting to raise council tax by a bumper amount in order to increase the services. Oh, no. They want to move to things like fortnightly bin collections. They want to reduce funding on things like libraries, some of the SEND funding, you name it, dimming street lights, and on it goes. I find this pretty disgraceful, Daniel Moylan. Where are you on it?
Well, first of all, we need to put it in context. There's a campaign going on by the Local Government Association at the moment to give the impression that all councils have run out of money. In fact, when you look carefully at what they're saying that they will run out of money at some point in the future. They're not running out of money at the moment. There are some councils, Birmingham is one of them, where there are particular circumstances that apply. In this particular case, there's an historic claim for equal pay, which they lost, which means they have hundreds of millions they've got to pay out to people from the past, and there are other things that have gone wrong.
Well, it's more than that. They've paid out over $1 billion so far, and there is more, as you say, hundreds more millions to come.
There's hundreds more millions to come, and they've got to pay this out, and it just goes to show how some of our equalities legislation is completely bonkers, because they won't have made these decisions in the first place without taking legal advice. They're a serious council, Birmingham. They're not a joke outfit.
Well, they look like quite a joke outfit.
They'll have taken
many other people.
Well, there's no joke going on here. This is a serious council. They're obliged by law, every council is, to set a balanced budget. So if they don't do that, they'll all go to jail. So they will set a balanced budget, and that's what this requires. And unfortunately, it falls in council tax terms and in service terms on the people of Birmingham, who will be very cross about it. But they'll have an opportunity at local elections. I don't know when they're having local elections in Birmingham, whether it's this year or next. But they'll have an opportunity at local elections to make a decision about the stewardship of that council under the current incumbents. That's part of our democracy.
Julie says, I live in Birmingham, Michelle, and I'm appalled by the service that the council has provided for years. Now, where are we? We're going to face more fly tipping because rubbish will not be collected weekly. We're going to feel unsafe walking the streets due to reduced street lights, less food on the table now for families due to the increase in council tax. You ask a simple question, Julie. Why should we, the ordinary people, be penalised for other people's incompetence? She says, I hope heads will roll. She says, if I was incompetent, my job, I'd be fired. I'm fuming, she says. Where are you on it, Tom?
Well, Julie will get the opportunity, won't she, to vote for one of 101 councillors in Birmingham, of which 65 formed the majority Labour-run council. I mean, just on the broader point, Daniel mentions the Local Government Association. I mean, the Institute of Government, a respected think tank.
I don't respect them.
It's not a political organisation, though, Daniel. I mean, they have found that real term spending in local government, this is across the board, since 2010 and the George Osborne austerity years, has reduced by 17%. So there's less spending power across local government. On the issue of Birmingham City Council, I struggle with this one. I'm a former councillor myself. I know this time of year in terms of budget setting. You do have to set a balanced budget. There's more than an air here, I have to say, unfortunately, of head in the sand from this particular group of councillors. They've known about this equal pay claim for many years. That said, it is Europe's biggest local authority. By definition, it employs a huge workforce. It's got to find now over £800 million to settle this agreement. That's a huge... I mean, that's the equivalent of my old budget for the whole council in Brighton and Hove. So that's just the scale here of what we're talking about.
There's been some talk that central government, i.e. taxpayers in the rest of the country, should bail this mess out.
I struggle with that one for the simple reason that for many years I've been a staunch champion of local decision-making. These are local services. That said, unlike other OECD countries, only 5% actually of tax revenues is raised locally. Most councils are funded through various formulas. I won't go into the technical detail, but Daniel will know, as a former serving councillor, just how difficult it is to move funds between these different categories. I actually think, given the doom loop, frankly, that all local government faces in terms of these local public services, driven by technology and demographic change, it's time perhaps actually to take social care and children's services out of the local budget. That's what's actually tipping a lot of councils over. If you look at what's forcing them to declare these so-called Section 144 bankruptcy, I mean, technically they're not bankrupt, but that's what's going on around the country. So, but then the balance there is, do we want more local decision-making and local finance raised? Then we get into the whole issue of we need to reform the council tax, which has not been reformed since the 90s.
No, you want effective people making effective decisions. Because people seem to be running amok with public finances with no accountability because it's not their money, so they don't really care what happens, speculating all kinds of ridiculous commercial property endeavours that really end up going belly up. All of this equal claim situation, this has been going on for a long time. People have buried their head in the sand. Why only now are they coming forward with this planned budget and all of these proposals? This has gone on for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm not sitting here trying to defend the indefensible, by the way, and I think it's shocking that youth services are going to be cut to the extent that they are in Birmingham. Actually, 25 libraries, I believe, they're voting on this right now, that will be closed down. It's the young people, it's the businesses, and I think the danger now of this 21% hike in rates there is that it will actually lead to a sort of hollowing out, because the richer people who can afford to move will move outside to the neighbouring, many of them Tory shire counties where they'll pay less council tax. So you get this sort of race to the bottom if we're not careful. So maybe there is a case for the UK government to bail part of the bill.
Well, do you want to do that? Are you sitting in whatever, I don't know, are you in Grimsby or Wigan or wherever? Are you sitting there thinking, I know what I need to do with my hard-earned tax? I need to bail out Birmingham City Council. Is that what you think your responsibility should be, and why? My background is IT transformation. I used to roll out massive IT and digital projects. For the life of me, I cannot understand why the public service gets this so wrong. Birmingham, for example, when you look at the absolute farce that they have made of their new IT system, it's cost taxpayers now, I think it's something like £100 million. It's absolutely scandalous, but yet nobody, I bet my bottom dollar, nobody will be truly held to account. I'll let you have the final word on that. Before I just go to my next break, let me just ask you quickly, there's been proposals in a different council that if there's an empty property, Daniel, council tax could be increased by 300% to try and force people to stop keeping properties empty. What do you make to that?
Well, I don't think it'll have that effect. It'll increase revenue to the councils. They might get some more money if they ever collect it. But, I mean, properties are empty either because nobody wants to live in them, and there are parts of the country where properties are empty for that reason, or they're empty because they've passed into some sort of bleak house twilight zone where the owner is sort of, nobody knows who the owner is, or the owner is somebody who's, forgotten about it and they're demented or whatever. There are things like that happen. And you're not going to force people into putting the houses back on the market in those circumstances by putting up the council tax, which is relatively trivial. You probably won't collect the money for that reason. You'll have to wait until the house is sold when you can step in and try and collect it at that point. So I think this is performative action as much as anything else. I don't think it's going to have a great effect.
I think it's a sticking plaster, but I can understand, again, why local councils are having to do this. In my neck of the woods, we have, obviously, 2 universities. We had houses of multiple occupation. The council does have to try and manage those particular properties, not least because primary schools, the rolls go down because families can't move into these homes. So I think there is a role for local government, but it's a sticking plaster in the sense of we're just not building enough houses. 160,000 units were built last year. The experts reckon we've got to build a minimum of 300,000 housing units a year. We've obviously got this ONS data that's come out about the population projections, 5-6 million people moving into the country. That's net migration over the next few years. These are people who don't bring houses with them. So until we've got a proper housing strategy in this country of building enough homes, not just to buy, but also social homes to rent, that's really the seed of this whole crisis, which has been going on, I admit, for decades.
It has. This whole council situation, it's such a mess, isn't it? It's not like Birmingham, by the way. They're in a pickle. I mean, so many councils now are issuing these pre-bankruptcy notices, and don't even get me started on the likes of Croydon. Have you seen the state of the goings-on there? Anyway, I do have to be fair and read out a statement from the leader of Birmingham City Council. He said, and I quote, "This is a budget I never wanted or envisaged to bring to the council. These are not the things I came into politics to do. I believe in public service. I believe in tackling inequality. I believe in championing opportunities for the people of Birmingham." Yeah, sounds like it, love. Anyway, if you're in Birmingham, you tell me what you make to it all.